Two people can look at the exact same problem and see two completely different worlds. One person sees a closed door. The other sees a door that just hasn't been opened yet. One person sees a market crash and thinks everything is over. The other sees the exact same crash and thinks everything is on sale. One person hears no and stops. The other hears no and asks, no, but what would make it a yes? Same event, same information, same starting point. Two completely different outcomes. That gap, that invisible gap between how two people process the exact same reality, is the entire reason some people end up building empires while others, just as smart, just as hardworking, end up standing still. It's not about IQ. It's not about talent. It's not even about opportunity, because opportunity is sitting in front of almost everyone at some point in their life. It's about how they think. And today, I'm not going to give you vague inspiration. I'm going to break down piece by piece the specific ways billionaires process the world differently than everyone else. The internal wiring that turns ordinary circumstances into extraordinary results. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to turn every setback into a comeback, while others get knocked down once and never get back up, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to recognize exactly which of these thinking patterns you're missing and exactly what to do about it. Let's get into it. When something goes wrong, the average person's brain asks one question: why is this happening to me? That question feels natural. It feels human, but it's also a trap because it frames you as a victim of circumstances instead of someone with the power to respond to them. The billionaire brain asks a completely different question when something goes wrong. Not why me, but what does this require of me? That single shift in phrasing changes everything downstream. Why me leads to frustration, self-pity, and paralysis. What does this require leads to action, because it assumes automatically that a solution exists and it's simply a matter of finding it. Every massive company you can think of was built by someone who ran directly into a wall of problems that would have stopped most people permanently. Supply chains that didn't work, investors who said no over and over, products that failed in public embarrassingly in front of everyone. The difference wasn't that these people avoided problems, it's that their brains were wired to treat every problem as a puzzle with a hidden solution, rather than a punishment they didn't deserve. Try this the next time something goes wrong in your life, and something will, probably today. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me, and what do I need to figure out to solve it? It sounds small. It's not. That one mental habit repeated enough times rewires how your entire brain responds to adversity. Now, here's where most people stop paying attention, because the next part isn't as exciting as Think Like a Billionaire, but it's the part that actually explains why rich people keep getting richer while everyone else stays stuck in the same place financially year after year. This next thinking pattern alone is responsible for more generational wealth than almost anything else on this list. Don't tune out now. Ask the average person about their financial plan, and you'll usually hear something about this month, paying this bill, covering this expense, making it to the next paycheck. Ask a billionaire the same question, and the timeline in their head isn't measured in weeks, it's measured in decades. This is what's called time horizon thinking, and it might be the single biggest invisible force separating people who accumulate wealth from people who accumulate debt. When your mental timeline is short, every decision gets filtered through immediate comfort. Spend now, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed anyway. Buy the thing, because you deserved it after a hard week. Skip the investment, because the return feels too far away to matter. When your mental timeline stretches out to 10, 20, 30 years, the exact same decisions look completely different. A painful sacrifice today stops looking painful. It starts looking like a trade. You're not giving something up. You're exchanging short-term comfort for long-term freedom. And once you can see that trade clearly, it stops feeling like sacrifice at all. This is why long-time horizon thinkers can sit through years of a business not working, an investment not paying off yet, or a skill not being profitable, while everyone around them panics and quits. They're not more patient by nature, they're simply looking further down the road, so the bumps in front of them don't feel as important. Here's a practical way to build this. Before every financial decision this week, ask yourself one question. Will the person I am in 10 years thank me for this or resent me for it? That one question, asked consistently, will quietly redirect the entire trajectory of your life. And there's a second, quieter piece to this that almost nobody mentions. Long-time horizon thinking doesn't just change what you do with money, it changes what you're willing to tolerate along the way. If your timeline is short, boredom feels unbearable. A slow month feels like proof it's not working. A quiet year feels like wasted time. So the short horizon thinker jumps from job to job, from idea to idea, from strategy to strategy, always chasing the version of progress that feels exciting right now, and always resetting the clock on compounding in the process. The long horizon thinker tolerates boredom on purpose. They understand that almost nothing worth building looks impressive in year 1 or year 2 or sometimes even year 5. They're not more talented at sitting still. They've simply made peace with the fact that the invisible years are the ones doing the actual work, even when there's nothing to show for it yet. If you find yourself getting restless right now, wanting to quit something because it's slow, or switch to something new because it feels more exciting, pause before you do. Ask whether you're actually failing or whether you're just in the boring middle part that everyone who eventually succeeds had to sit through first. Here's something that surprises a lot of people the first time they hear it. Most self-made billionaires don't actually think about money the way you'd expect. For the average person, money often becomes emotional. It represents safety, status, worth, even love in some cases. Losing money can feel like losing part of your identity. Having money can feel like proof that you matter. For the billionaire mind, money gets stripped of almost all of that emotional weight. It becomes something closer to a tool, like a hammer or a set of coordinates on a map. It's not who they are. It's simply a resource that can be deployed to build, invest, protect, or multiply. This distinction matters more than it sounds like it does, because emotional money decisions are almost always bad decisions. Fear-based selling, status-based spending, ego-based investing, all of it comes from treating money as identity instead of tool. When you remove the emotional charge from money, you start making decisions based on math and strategy instead of fear and pride. You stop buying things to prove something to people who weren't thinking about you in the first place. You stop panic selling an investment because the number dropped for a week. You start asking a much more useful question. What is the smartest possible use of this resource right now, given where I want to be in the future? That question, asked over and over across thousands of small decisions, is how modest amounts of money slowly turn into serious wealth. There's a specific moment this shows up that's worth naming directly. Watch how someone reacts when they lose money. The emotional thinker spirals, replaying the loss, feeling foolish, sometimes avoiding that entire category of decision for years afterward out of fear. The tool thinker asks a much flatter, much more useful question. What does this loss tell me, and what's the next correct move? No spiral, no self-punishment, just recalibration. This isn't coldness, it's efficiency. Emotion is expensive when it's misapplied to a spreadsheet, and the billionaire mind reserves its emotional energy for the things that actually deserve it: relationships, health, purpose, while keeping financial decisions as unemotional as checking the weather before deciding what to wear. If you've made it this far, I want you to notice something. You haven't clicked away, even though nothing about this video has been flashy or hyped up. That itself tells you something about how your brain works, and it's a good sign, because what I'm about to explain next is the mental pattern that almost every successful person shares and almost every struggling person avoids completely, even though it's uncomfortable to talk about. Most people are wired to avoid criticism. It stings, it feels personal. So the natural instinct is to surround yourself with people who agree with you, tell you what you want to hear, and protect your feelings. The billionaire mind does almost the exact opposite. It actively seeks out the harshest, most honest feedback it can find, not because it enjoys pain, but because it understands something most people never fully accept. The truth you don't want to hear is usually the exact information you need to grow. This is why so many extremely successful people surround themselves with advisors, mentors, and partners who will tell them bluntly when an idea is bad, when a product isn't good enough, or when a strategy is flawed, instead of people who will simply nod along. Avoiding criticism feels good in the short term. It protects your ego for exactly as long as it takes for reality to catch up with you anyway. Except now you find out the hard way, after you've already wasted months or years on something that wasn't working. Seeking criticism feels bad in the short term, and that's exactly why most people avoid it. But it saves you from the much bigger pain of building on a broken foundation for years without knowing it. Here's a challenge. This week, ask someone you trust, someone who won't sugarcoat it, what they think you're doing wrong. Not what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. Then actually listen without defending yourself. That single conversation might save you years. Here's a pattern that shows up again and again in people who've built massive success. They make big decisions quickly, but once they've decided, they commit hard and don't second-guess themselves into paralysis. The average person does the opposite. They agonize over decisions for weeks, gathering endless information, seeking endless opinions, waiting for some feeling of total certainty that never actually arrives. And then, once they finally do decide, they spend the next 6 months wondering if they made the wrong choice. This is exhausting, and worse, it's expensive, because while you're stuck in decision paralysis, the world keeps moving. Opportunities have expiration dates. The version of a market, a trend, or an opening that exists today will not exist in exactly the same form 6 months from now. The billionaire mind treats most decisions as reversible, not permanent, not life and death, reversible, which means the cost of making a decision and being wrong is usually much smaller than people imagine, and the cost of not deciding at all is usually much bigger than people imagine. So they gather just enough information to make a confident call, not perfect information, just enough, and they move. If it's wrong, they adjust. If it's right, they've already gained months or years of momentum that the overthinkers never got. Ask yourself honestly, is there a decision you've been sitting on for weeks or months waiting to feel ready? What would happen if you decided today with what you already know and adjusted course later if needed? There's a useful filter for this, and it's simpler than it sounds. Before agonizing over a decision, ask whether it's a one-way door or a two-way door. A one-way door, something that's genuinely difficult or expensive to undo, deserves real deliberation. But most decisions people lose sleep over are actually two-way doors. You can walk back through them if needed. You can quit the course, cancel the plan, change direction, apologize, adjust. Treating a two-way door like a one-way door is one of the most common, most expensive thinking errors there is, because it turns a 5-minute decision into a 5-month source of anxiety for no actual reason. Start sorting your decisions into these two categories this week and watch how much mental energy gets freed up almost immediately. Okay, we're getting into the part of this video that I actually think matters most, so if you skip ahead, don't skip this part, because everything I've said so far explains how billionaires think. What comes next explains why their thinking sticks, while everyone else's good intentions fade out after a few weeks. This is the difference between people who change temporarily and people who change permanently. Most people stop learning the moment they leave school.
Not because they're lazy, because the system trains us to believe learning is something that happens to you in a classroom until a certain age, and then it's over. The billionaire mind rejects that completely. For them, learning never has an end date. Books, conversations, mentors, industries they know nothing about yet, mistakes they haven't made yet, all of it becomes fuel, indefinitely, for the rest of their life. This matters more than people realize because the world doesn't reward what you knew 5 years ago. It rewards what you know now, applied to what's happening now. Industries shift, technology changes, entire business models become obsolete within a few years. The person who stopped learning in their 20s is trying to navigate a completely different world using an outdated map. The person who never stopped learning is constantly updating the map in real time, which means they see opportunities that are invisible to everyone else still using the old version. This is also why so many extremely successful people read constantly, ask questions that make them look inexperienced on purpose, and treat every setback as a lesson instead of simply a loss. They're not smarter than everyone else by default. They've simply refused to stop getting smarter, while most people quietly stopped years ago and didn't notice. Here's the practical version of this. What did you learn this week? Not at work, not by accident, but on purpose, because you sought it out. If the honest answer is nothing, that's not a character flaw. It's just a habit you haven't built yet. Start today. 10 minutes. One book, one article, one conversation with someone smarter than you about something you don't understand. There's also a specific kind of humility built into this that's easy to miss. Being willing to look inexperienced in a room, asking the question everyone else is too proud to ask, feels like a status hit in the moment. Most people avoid it for exactly that reason. They'd rather nod along and stay quiet than risk looking like the least knowledgeable person present. The billionaire mind trades that short-term status hit for long-term advantage without hesitation because it understands the math. The discomfort of looking uninformed for 30 seconds is nothing compared to the cost of staying uninformed for another 5 years out of pride. Every piece of expertise you have right now in anything started as a question you were once embarrassed to ask. The people who kept asking anyway are the ones who ended up knowing more than everyone in the room. This might be the hardest one to hear, so I'll say it plainly. The billionaire mind takes responsibility for outcomes, even in situations that genuinely weren't their fault. Not because it's fair, it's often not fair. A partner made a bad call, the market shifted unexpectedly, an employee dropped the ball. None of that was their doing directly, and yet the pattern holds. They ask, what could I have done differently here? Even here. This isn't about blame, it's about power. Because the moment you decide something is entirely someone else's fault, you've also decided, without realizing it, that you have no power to change what happens next. You've handed control of your outcome to someone else's mistake. The billionaire mind refuses to hand over that control, even when it would be completely justified to. Not because they're taking blame they don't deserve, but because they'd rather hold on to the power to fix it than hold on to the satisfaction of being right about whose fault it was. This is uncomfortable. It should be. Growth usually is. But the next time something goes wrong that genuinely isn't your fault, try asking anyway. Is there anything, even a small thing, within my control here? Most of the time there is, and the moment you find it, you've taken your power back. We're close to the end here, but I need you to actually sit with what comes next, because this is the part that ties every single one of these thinking patterns together, and it's the part most people forget the moment the video ends. Look back at everything we just covered. Problems as puzzles instead of punishments, decades instead of weekends, money as a tool instead of a scoreboard, criticism sought instead of avoided, fast decisions instead of endless deliberation, learning as a lifelong habit instead of a phase that ended at graduation, ownership of outcomes even when it isn't fair. Notice the thread running through every single one of these. Every one of them is a choice about how to interpret reality, not a fact about how the world works, and not a talent you weren't born with. Nobody is born automatically seeing problems as puzzles. Nobody is born with a decade-long time horizon. These are trained responses, built one repetition at a time, exactly the same way a muscle gets built one rep at a time. Which means the gap between how you currently think and how a billionaire thinks isn't a permanent gap, it's a practice gap, and practice gaps close. You don't need to change all 7 of these overnight. You need to pick one, just one, and practice it deliberately for the next 30 days. Ask, what does this require of me, instead of, why is this happening to me, every single time something goes wrong this month. That's it. That's the assignment. Small, repeated shifts in how you interpret reality compound into an entirely different life, the same way small deposits compound into serious wealth. Nobody wakes up thinking like a billionaire overnight. They build it, one uncomfortable rep at a time, until one day the way they see the world simply is different, and the results follow naturally from there. That's not magic, that's not luck, that's just the mind, trained differently than everyone else's, producing a completely different life as a result. The version of you that thinks this way already exists somewhere down the road. The only question left is how many reps it takes before you meet them. Start today. If even one of these 7 thinking patterns hit differently for you, let me know which one in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want the full breakdown of the daily habits that come out of this exact mindset, the next video in this series is exactly that. Subscribe so you don't miss it.